anything in place that relates to the following items: how bathrooms and locker rooms will be used or similar facilities. Are they to be based on biological sex? Pronoun requests and usage requirements, along with parental notification of such requests if different from biological sex. The use of content in classroom and instructional material regarding gender fluidity issues. We don't specify when traveling who is allowed to be housed together or not. We have nothing that says parent notification, that it's standard that parents be notified, or a must that parents be notified if students show signs of gender confusion. And I believe, along with other concerned parents, grandparents, students, that we're long overdue for considering this local policy based on the outlines and the items I outlined in the concerns.
Okay. So what action? I mean, what do
I
you
think we
wanna
should
do?
entertain writing a local policy that just sets forth how bathrooms and locker rooms will be used, where students, when traveling, how they'll be housed together at school functions. Parent notification, none of this is anywhere in our policies, none of it.
I think
Is
that-
there some specific
I think-
concern
no,
that has come up that you feel we need to add this, or is this theoretical or hypothetical? Like what is driving this?
Safety for some,
Specific scenario.
no, it's just that these are things that we do not have in policies at anywhere, and we've been told over and over and over again this last year and a half, if it's not in policy, it can't be enforced. So we need to set forth as a board, we're entrusted with these issues: student safety, protecting our teachers from being accused of things or being retaliated against if they don't do something that doesn't align with their First Amendment rights or their beliefs. So these are just some things that have come to me that, as I looked through and tried finding in our policies, we have nothing on this.
Are we talking about potty training?
No, and we did have instances where there were teachers that were asking children in the high school level to fill out a questionnaire that asked for their preferred pronouns. That was reported at least 2 instances.
So that's the problem you have.
That's one example, but there are other scenarios at other schools across.
Please tell me the problems you have.
Okay, that was a scenario that happened at the high school level. I've been made aware at Kaufman that there is a 3rd grade teacher that has an other bathroom pass that was being allowed to be chosen by 3rd graders. That's a specific example. Do you want more?
Yeah.
Grand Oaks was the high school I was referring. I think there were 2 complaints on a teacher at Grand Oaks that was asking on a questionnaire for preferred pronouns. There were signature blocks of educators in our district that had his, him, her, they pronouns. Not sure what the reason was, but because we didn't have it written in policy that wasn't allowed, then
Or
it was
even what
allowed.
our policy is, if it's allowed.
So we didn't have it in policy. What Ms. Odenwiller is saying is that if it's not written, then there's nothing to reference when we say this is not allowed.
If I may ask
So
a
the
question?
specific problem you're trying to address is pronouns.
The use of pronouns, the misuse
Y'all,
of
no.
pronouns.
No, that is not true. You're taking that one thing. I mentioned the
So
use
tell me
of.
what else.
She asked
I
for specifics.
went through and
Okay.
told you, we have nothing that defines who uses which bathrooms, locker rooms, or similar facilities.
Is it a problem right now?
It doesn't matter
Specifically.
if it's a problem. Do we have to wait for something to be a problem in order to protect our
I think
students?
it's a problem in your own mind.
Well, I think it is not a problem in your mind. I mean, we could go back and forth all night, Ms. Chase. All we're saying is that Ms. Odenwiller is asking for us as a board to consider rewriting a policy with the help of Ms. Gladys, or writing a policy, and then agreeing to vote on it, and we can make our adjustments then as a board.
I'm certainly in favor of addressing problems and gaps in our procedures and policies. Certainly in favor of that. What I'm trying to get from y'all is specifically what is the problem we're trying to address. It is not worth anyone's time to change things just to change things.
We're not
okay?
changing
We're not
anything, we're
changing
creating
anything. We don't
something that
have
doesn't
To
anything.
create
exist.
things just to create things.
We have local
okay?
policies for numerous other areas of
Of
issues, so we have a
course.
legal policy already. We want a
Yes.
local policy, that's all.
She's saying it's not a problem. We don't have a
It doesn't
policy.
have to be a problem.
hold
Why do we
on.
have to wait until there's a problem to
Let me
do
finish.
it?
We don't have a policy on earthquakes. We should
Well,
look
maybe
into
you
that.
should write that.
You know, and we're trying to get you to understand. First of all, we need to stop beating around the bush, right? The issue becomes here, this is a bully-like approach. We just keep picking on the same group of folks, right? Our expectation here is not to help the students, it's to hurt, right? And that's not what we're here. I'm actually flabbergasted we're having this discussion.
Well,
Right.
I think we're
Because we're
hurting our
going on
students
and
if
on
we're
and
not
on,
honest
pretending
with
that
them.
what you guys are doing is not bully-like. Right, that's exactly what's going on.
We sit here every
You know-
month being
Let it go.
bullied by you
Yeah,
and
yeah.
putting up with your behavior next to us and your actions and the things that you state. And so you cannot sit here and say we're being bullies
There's a
when
group-
you don't acknowledge the fact that you
There's a
do it
group of
every
people-
month.
Group of people in the fifties and sixties that they passed systemic laws and policies, downtrodden people that exacerbated their plight, right? It seemed very reminiscent. See, if you guys would have read some of those books that you're trying to ban, you would understand the history of how we move as a country. And it seemed very reminiscent of what I'm hearing and what you guys keep bringing to the agenda here. And then you cloaking it underneath faith and community values. This has nothing to do with faith and community values. This has to do with you bullying a certain group of people. We sit here on these books and we talk about a certain group of people, bullying, all right? So keep that racism, the homophobia, the xenophobia. You should keep that in your houses and your churches. Don't bring it to the school district or the workplace. It has no place here.
I
Nor,
don't appreciate being called what you're trying to call me. We're
Hey,
enforcing the law. We're getting
i-
pornography
if
out
the
of
shoe
libraries.
fits-
It's HB 900.
Take it off. Don't wear it.
I think we'll-
Mm-mm.
If I may, I got a couple of questions. The concerns, Ms. Duncan, that you had, were you able to take them to the school for them to be addressed?
They were, the parent, no, I recommended the parent take them to the school
Okay.
so that the administrators could do their job. And yes, I was told that the administrator handled the situation. So when that's
And
the
do you-
case, I don't get involved.
Right. How did they handle, I'm curious how they handled it, and
The
what
teacher
did
was
they-
told, don't do that again.
Okay, so what did the administrator have to enforce that correction?
Hopefully a procedure, that would be something maybe Dr. Knoll could speak to. I'm not aware of the procedures and that aspect of it. We're responsible for policy. I'm trying to
Right.
stick to
So it
what our
sounds like
job
there's
is.
something in place already, and then you
there
had, you
isn't,
had kind of,
because I
Procedure.
asked on that. I asked if there was a procedure or a policy, and I was told no.
okay.
Well, look, they want a procedure and policy with kids that have multiple posters for elementary age with multicolored hands.
I know.
Do we come up with policies out of all of this fear mongering, if you will? You know, it's distasteful, and it's not who I am and who we are as a school district on how we're continuing to bully just one demographic, very small demographic of our school
They're
district.
bullying us.
I
Well,
will agree with something you said, Mr. Williams.
I don't need you to
You
agree.
said, keep it at
I
home,
don't
leave
need
it
you
at
to
home.
agree.
There are certain things that don't belong in our schools. Whether you and I agree about what those things are, I could not care less. But what I do believe is what I'm gonna sit here every week and fight for. And I believe that there are certain things that need to be outlined in
You got-
policy
you
so
have
that
just
it
a-
does not happen.
You have just as much right to be wrong as I do right, so
Well,
I'm
we can
understanding
agree to
I'm
that.
good with that.
All right, just hold off on that.
Which things don't belong in our schools?
I think that's what I'm
Certain
trying to
ideologies,
get at.
just like you would
Don't
say
even
the
go
Bible
down the
doesn't.
rabbit
Specific.
hole.
I mean, the Bible, Mr. Williams argues all the time, well, we don't put the Bible in the library. Well, you can have your opinion, I can have mine, and we can sit here all day long and make policies about it. As a board, that's our
No,
job.
we're not interested in that.
What
I know you're
so
not.
We know.
A question to what
You
you,
don't
what
know.
you
Yes,
said.
sir.
My question is, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you said something about parental notice, parents knowing about.
Mhm.
Could you give me in a scenario that you're talking about, or could you give me just a made-up example, if you'd like, about what the school district is not telling parents?
I'm not saying that the district is doing that.
Okay.
I'm stating that we have nothing outlined procedurally or in writing policy-wise to these issues that I mentioned. That's what I was referring to. I'm not accusing us
Right.
of anything. I am strictly stating that as you all have informed us, that if it's not in writing, if it's not a policy, it's not a procedure, we don't have anything to fall back on. That's all I was just getting, that's what I
I'm
was
not sh-
asking for.
I don't know that that's completely accurate.
It's pretty close, because.
But pretty close is not
Because-
exact. And so what, like I was, somebody came up here and said that I'm not gonna, I've already got my made up around books. I never said that. That's not what I said at all, okay? In that scenario, I was talking about a policy, that if the policy and the procedure works, then there will be no need for us to go through and that. And so all that was taken out of context. But so there are things that the school district does that may not be a policy, but it is a procedure. One of those things is we don't withhold information from parents. We do not withhold information from parents.
And that's not what's being claimed. We're not claiming that.
Very good. So you can agree.
We're
So
all
if
a
anybody comes to you
policy.
so if anybody comes to y'all and says, y'all aren't Tarrant parents, you will look them in the eye and say,
No, I won't.
Okay, so you do believe we're withholding
No,
information?
I would never tell a parent that without investigating
I'm
or
not
checking
talking
into
about a
that.
parent. I'm talking about people out on the street accuse CISD of withholding information from parents, and we do not do that.
There
We do
have
not.
been instances, but they.
There has not
but
been an
they-
instance.
That's a blanket claim you keep stating, and I've heard you for years state that, but there have been
There have
proven
been instances.
So,
I'm telling you, it's false.
okay, we can get past that though if we have a policy, because we don't have anything in writing that outlines
I
these
just-
expectations and standards.
So let me just
Yeah,
make
yeah.
sure.
We want rainbow
The bottom
policy.
line is you all do not want to address this. You do not want to put anything in place that defines what restrooms will be used, who will use what restrooms, pronoun
Restroom comes in.
No, what we want is for
We
you
have
to stop
put in
targeting a
place.
specific group of
I-
people. That's what we want. So you ask me what I want, that's what I want.
My point is,
That's
you
what I
don't
want.
want to try to put, the
I
whole
want you to stop
question
targeting
was.
rainbows.
Let her talk, please.
Multi-diversity,
That's-
ethnicity, whatever. I want you to stop that.
Could you finish your thought, please?
I just was stating, so I asked for this to be on
Right.
the agenda. I asked that we consider and write, and discuss writing a, policy regarding this. And it's obvious that at least three, based on what I'm hearing, I
Right.
didn't hear from Ms. Wagaman, or trustee Wagaman, sorry, that you all don't believe we need to have anything that protects the students in place.
I think,
So-
but I'm trying to, her down here, we're trying to get some specific
I
informa-
gave you
No, you-
specifics.
But I interpreted that as fairly general. I'm talking about specific. If you're trying to say,
Well,
if
I-
you're trying to say no boys and girls lockers, I'm down with that. We don't want, boys and girls bathrooms.
I'm down with
I'm
that.
down with that, right? Those are things that I don't think anybody wants.
I didn't
But-
realize that's what you were asking.
That's what I'm trying to ask you, is if you would just be specific in what it
then
is
that's
that
where
you're
we go
asking
to.
for.
The next step would be to entertain those specific things, and we could start the dialogue with Ms. Gladys and make sure that we bring
But
together
my
some
question
things for
is-
us to go back and forth on.
But my question is, have you investigated how CISD handles those situations if and when they come up?
It isn't a matter of are we doing it and how are we doing it? It's a matter of it being written out for people to see and
are
for
we
it to
doing
be
So,
enforced.
and you're aware that this agenda item, the policy, student welfare.
Yes.
Local policy, student welfare, parental authority, and gender fluidity matters
Yes,
is a KDFA policy.
Yes.
That is.
That's where it
that
was
is under
placed for
invest-
Katie.
That is under investigation right now.
investigation simply means they're looking into it. It doesn't
Right.
mean that there's anything wrong with it.
So would it be better to wait to see how that turns out, to find out how that even turns out?
They're not doing anything that's illegal. The
And
policy isn't illegal.
According to you, according to your thought.
According to Attorney
Why would we-
General, according to
Attorney
state
General,
law.
This just came out on Monday. Today's Tuesday. You
Okay,
think Ken Paxton
there-
has looked at this already?
Why would we invite this
Looked at
problem?
this policy. I'm sure he has, but
It's
I
a
wasn't
doc-
even saying that was
I'm
a
sure
policy
he
of.
has, is not, look, that's my point, is I understand what you're saying. I appreciate your attempt to want to protect students. I think we all want to protect students.
For sure.
But this particular item is under investigation, and I think that our district does a fantastic job on addressing this on a case-by-case scenario. And I don't know that we need to entertain a policy or procedure that's gonna, as Datron Williams was saying, was alienate a group of people. I think our district
Do you ever think
does it
about
on
the other
individual.
group of people?
100% I do.
Because that's where,
Absolutely, yes, ma'am, I
we
do.
have to keep our focus on
It's-
both sides.
It's
of
called
the
majority.
I agree. I totally agree. I totally agree that we need to look
Yeah,
at both of those
so
things.
no.
And that's what the district does right now.
I think the problem is the representation is coming from the majority. And again, this is indicative of bully type behavior. Well, you take your power and you're of the majority, so you feel like you're empowered to encroach and trample on the rights of the minority. You see, that's fundamentally the problem here, right? And we continuously do this as if though we're not doing that.
Well,
You
I
know
just
what,
know that as
So
a,
when
as a
you're in the
district-
majority and you sit at these, in the positions of authority, it makes you responsible for the minority and to protect the minority, not to trample on them.
I understand what you're
correct.
saying.
You're very familiar with that, Mr.
What are you
Williams.
referring to?
What does that mean?
I just think that
What does
you
that
keep
mean?
pointing to
What do you
us
mean,
and
what do you
how
mean?
we abuse our power and we're after a target group, and I don't think that's the case at all. I think that we differ in opinion.
I sat here
You
for
take it
hours on
personally?
end talking about,
Could you not interrupt?
talking about books,
No, you're not
and the
doing
whole,
that. What
whole
are you
thing
talking
is
about?
homosexuality. Look, you could do a week of study, a dialogue. It doesn't trump my common sense on any given day. So understand that. There's levels to this.
I'm not trying to understand. I'm trying to protect kids in our school district. This is not personal. This is just our responsibility as a board. How you've conducted business in the past may look different moving forward. So here's where we are.
Let's see.
President
My
Hubert,
position is,
The problem
How
is
do I
I
say
don't do
this?
business. I'm here for the best interest of the school district. It's not a business entity I'm here to
That's
try to run. I do that in my, see, the
debatable.
problem when people don't get a certain level of authority at home or on the job, and they get in a position of authority, all right? It causes, they wreak chaos, you see? That's what we have here. Fundamentally, folks in a position of authority who are not accustomed
So
to
now
it.
you're a
And want to
psychologist?
impose on everybody and come and wreak chaos. That's why we're here to 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning.
well,
Let's vote, man. Let's.
well, there's nothing to vote on.
There's nothing to vote
There's
on.
nothing to
Let's keep
vote
moving.
on. I just,
It's nonsense.
I just think,
ahead.
we don't have to have a crystal ball where this leads. We can look right, across the street to Katy ISD and see where it's led them, right? And it's action by the Department of Education. And I know you scoff at that, Trustee Odenweller, but that has real implications. So I think it's really reckless for us to entertain a notion to follow in their footsteps when we're not actually addressing a specific problem
Correct.
for students.
correct. Yeah, there's no problem to solve at
So
this time.
proactive is out.
It's not about proactive, it's
We
like
don't just make a
nothing
point
there.
to make a
This
point and put
policy
the
is
ding.
already legally on the books. We have all we're asking is that we
No, we're not
be
gonna do
more
anything.
Is there,
specific in
is there any
local
more
verbiage.
discussion
No,
about
no
the
rainbow
document?
You don't
policies,
have
no
my
nothing
support.
today.
You
Let's
don't
move
have my
on.
support.
All right, moving on from that. All right, that's item C.